Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to our podcast. Pretty exciting times, man. But let's go ahead and get started.
Let's get into it.
Welcome to our podcast, our last 30, a podcast about life, death, and everything in between. We have a unique one today, man. We've been working real hard. We've had we're coming off a really successful last couple of weeks,
Cesar, absolutely,
with our conference, and I just can't say it again. That mini summit was so successful, and because of the donors, the sponsors, our committee, the participants, and so thank you all who had a hand in making that successful. And we have some pretty exciting news coming up as well as far as guests. Even before we get started, I wanted to share a little thing, so let's see if this won't zoom in for me here. We got a gift. Got a gift here. There it is right there. You can see, right? So this gift came in. I said, man, I'm going to say thank you on this. I said, nah, man, we actually get a lot of nice things, and they like to be anonymous. So, well, you know who you are, man. But thank you for getting it. Like, this looks cool,
That's
dude.
cool.
Like, I saw that, and then I mentioned it, and then next thing you know, a couple days later, we get this.
One.
And so we're going to keep that. We're not going to drink it. It's pretty cool, man, and smart marketing.
We'll open it up on the anniversary with a rum and coke.
So we're in our planning, we talked about what our first year looks like. And that's coming up. It's coming up real soon, dude, but let's get started, man.
Let's get started. I think the topic for today is a long time coming. We've done things. We've taken chances. We've taken opportunities. We've taken the initiative on a lot of things, whether it was the podcast, whether it was the summit. And I think that's what honestly has led to this topic today.
Yeah, man. 100%.
What kind of choices and the choices that you make, how do they affect who you are as a person, what it is that you're taking into the future?
Yeah. Because
at the end of the day, we know that life is not set in stone. There's not a map on how to follow life, on how to go about it. Right. So sometimes a decision that we make can affect your whole life, and it can change it so drastically.
One decision.
It could be a little one, or it could be a big one. And no matter how, those decisions are going to impact the rest of your life. So I think that's one of the things that we wanted to dive into today. Again, we've taken a lot of decisions, especially with the Los High-Red Homies, with the summit. Personally, we've taken a lot of decisions that have led us to be where we're at now. I think there's a lot of decisions that, talking about myself, 2014, 2015, I would have taken. I wouldn't be sitting here at the moment. So,
it kind of reminds me of that podcast we did that really, that was our first connection to more than 60, 70 views, and that was the burnt toast theory.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that was a good one.
And so when we talked about that, you presented the topic, and we talked about that. It was so successful. It just connected with people like one fine moment in time could just change everything about what you do. So like, I just thought it was a beautiful moment. And so today is kind of a follow up to that in a sense, it's similar in that we're talking about that one decision or those decisions that impact us, man. And
absolutely.
That's kind of what we're talking about today. So Cesar has been, as you can tell, right, taking a lead in developing topics and speaking points. When we first started off, it was funny because Cesar would be like, "Hey, man, that was a great interview, podcast. What should I name it?" And I was like, "What about this and this?" And he's like, "Yeah." So after the third or fourth one, I remember you emailed me or texted me. You're like, "Hey, man, you're really good at the naming thing. What do you want to call it?" And I was like, "What about this and this and this?" The next week, I don't know if we had started to get sick or something like that. You took the control of it, and I was like, "Oh, dude, I really like that topic you named it." Never look back, dude.
No.
Literally since that moment, you've come up with the topic development.
The points.
The title of the podcast. So anyways, little shout out to Cesar on there. And so today we're going over a topic that we've been developing for weeks and talking about. when I say developing, I mean like, what are things we know about? What are things we're comfortable talking about?
Yeah.
And you talked about that, the crossroads, the weight of one choice, man. Can you kind of expand on that?
Yeah, I think honestly we've lived it unconsciously. We've been doing it our whole lives unconsciously without even really putting too much weight on that. No matter what the decisions is that we make, they lead us to a different path, or they put us in a different environment as well. I think we'll also going back to one of the other episodes that we did a couple of weeks ago, we're talking about me getting closer to my religion. The Bible verse that I read that day or that week whenever we were recording, that's what it talked about. That we can set, or we can want to set our own path, but if God doesn't want us to be there, it's not going to happen. So I think that ties in fairly well with this, because again, a decision can change your life. For me, I think one of the biggest decisions that I made was attending A&M Commerce. that literally, I was a day away from not accepting A&M Commerce.
Crazy, right?
It's insane because I look back at it. Yeah, the first year was a little rough with a 1.26 GPA. It was insane.
Enough to make most people quit, I would say.
100%.
You know, like, this isn't for me. This is, I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah, I'm not good enough.
I'm not good. You know, we talk about that imposter syndrome
Mm-hmm.
all the time, and how that thing creeps up, and it says, am I smart enough?
Yeah.
Am I good enough? Am I, you know, I hear people in relationships, am I pretty enough? Am I handsome enough? Whatever it is.
Do I deserve this opportunity that I'm being awarded? Because I think that goes a long way, because if we're talking about us as minorities, when we're in a spot where we can be successful, whether it be education, whether it be a job, whatever, if we're not taking advantage of it, we feel guilty that we're wasting that opportunity where somebody else could have been there. So for me, I think that's what changed my life. I mean, I had offers to go play D1 soccer, go out of state, this and that. Being a goalkeeper, obviously that has been a lot more difficult to receive a full ride scholarship, just because they only need one, right? And coming in as a freshman, that was super difficult. So I made the difficult decision of one day declining all my offers. Literally the last day that I could send in my signed letter of intent to the university where I was going, Oklahoma Baptist. I called them. I'm like, I need my deposit back. I'm not going, because I had my roommate. I already had my dorm. I had everything. Literally that following week, I was gonna pick classes because I was having to go to Oklahoma early to do training camp for soccer, get all of that physicals and stuff like that ready before school started. And one day I get that phone call from Julian. I'm like, hey, we got a scholarship over here. Do you want it or not? So I had to put in the balance whether I continued my dream of playing soccer, or go to an institution where the only reason why I applied there was because somebody told me you need a backup plan. You need a backup school. And it was the one school with a free application at that point. It's the only reason why I applied there. And I ended up there and made that decision to completely uproot my life from soccer and for where I thought my goal was, where I ended up wanted to be at, to being in this school in the middle of East Texas. And not knowing that being there would lead me into LAMP. LAMP would lead me into getting nationally recognized. That would lead into higher education professions, getting people network, all of that, my career.
And that's what we're talking about. So that's what today's podcast is about, Cesar. It's about that one decision. Okay? That one thing. Maybe it was staying in a relationship too long.
Yeah.
Right? On the relationship side. Maybe it was taking a job or walking away from a job. You know, those tough decisions. So I mean, maybe it's just the thought that this isn't the life I want anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on your age and your circumstances, maybe this isn't the life I want anymore. And that's what today's podcast is about.
It's all about.
Caesar, take it from the top. Tell us about your perspective, your experience in that one decision, and how. And there's 1,000 of them.
Oh, of course.
We listen. If you're listening in today, you're thinking of yourself, right? Of like, can imagine had I not taken that call, had I moved to that other city, or had I not moved to that city.
Yeah.
The people you meet, the people you don't meet, all of those unique circumstances that happen based on that one decision. That's what today's topic is about. That's what today's episode's about. So thank you for listening in. Cesar, man, what do you got on that one decision? What example do you have of that?
Yeah, I mean, so other than that, just A&M Commerce in and itself, I think being in commerce came with a lot of those life-altering decisions, fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to see it. But I believe one of the things that really cemented who I am as a person, my resilience as a student, as a professional now, was probably, 2017, 2018, when DACA had gotten rescinded for the first time. My DACA expired during that time. That was a rough time. I didn't know what I was going to do. I stopped working at the line ambassador's office.
They rescinded the deferment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that happened. I was so close to giving up. I was so close to going home because at the end of the day, I wasn't making any money. My parents, my mom at that time was helping me pay for everything: housing, school, food.
Because legally you couldn't.
No,
right?
I couldn't.
Like you couldn't work,
No.
so you couldn't make money. That's
I'm telling you, the office where I worked at, they didn't fire me, but they're like, "Hey, we can't pay you.
I remember, man.
We can't do that. Like, we want to, and if we could do like a scholarship or whatever on the side, we would.
We want to pay you, right?
Yeah.
We would like to pay you,
but we can't.
Yeah, that's wild.
So,
but you chose to keep working, though. I remember that.
I did keep working,
not knowing if you were going to get paid or not. You're like, well, what do I have to lose? I'm just going to keep working.
and I think for me, that's one of the things that kept me there and kept me grounded. I remember being in your office that one day when I was about to quit. Everything had gone to me to that point that day. That I'm like, bro, I'm gonna go home. I'll go find a job back home somewhere. I'll work and start making money. School isn't for me. This is a sign. The school isn't for me. Yeah. Remember being in that office, in your office, talking to you about it. It's like, hey, I'm thinking about dropping out. I'm thinking about leaving. This is a reality. This is what I'm going through. And I think we had, maybe 2 or 3 months till the end of the semester, maybe a little bit less. And you're like, no, well, give it some time. Wait on it. We'll see what happens. I went back home. I thought about it. And I think that's why I stayed working in the office. I went back, talked to the boss, and I'm like, hey, let me still do my shifts. Let me still do my work. I don't care if I don't get paid. Like, I'm not here for that. I wanted to continue my routine. I wanted to continue living the life that I was living prior to not change. I think that also changes your mentality and how you view things and how you act. So, yeah, if I would have dropped out that day, I wouldn't have graduated. I'm about to finish my master's. We wouldn't have started the Los Higher Homies. We wouldn't have been having this podcast with you guys.
So like, all right. So let me break it down from my perspective. At the time, I'm his mentor, right? I'm a supervisor.
Yeah.
Right? Leading this
You're leading the program.
He comes in as a student worker and says, yeah, man, this didn't work. And this was not like I'm having a bad attitude or someone's having a bad attitude or the work changed. This was a legal decision way scales above where you and I could have any impact.
Absolutely.
But like many of the mentors here today who listening in, they're sitting there like, well, I mean, ultimately the decision is yours, Cesar.
Yeah.
And as I told you, it's your call. But what changes whether you do it or not? Whether you keep working or not? Like, what changes? Like, all right. Well, in your DNA, specifically to this guy that I know, is not embedded the gene of quitting. It's not there, dude. Mm-mm. Your resilience was too powerful. It was too strong to allow you that mental interference to think, I just got to give it all up. Mm-hmm. But the decision had to come from you.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, I could plant a seed, but at the end of the day, you go home, you come back the next day, you just start working. And don't get me wrong, I was surprised that he took that advice, and I was surprised that, man, if I'm not mistaken, kind of felt like you started working more. Like your work ethic was just like, dude, I'm not going to have something affect my reputation. So at that point, I feel like your reputation was more important than any paycheck, than any payment, than any accolade, any kind of recognition. And it showed, dude. And in this case, it turned out great because later on they were able to take care of you.
Yeah.
But you didn't do it for that reason.
No, I didn't
Right?
know that could
There's
even be a
no
possibility.
way. There's no way you could have known.
Absolutely not.
You did it for the right reasons, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for so many of us in our lives, you talk about that one decision on that day. That one decision for Cesar was to keep going, was to reflect resilience.
Mm-hmm.
You could have gone a whole other route, brother.
100%.
You could have done a whole lot of other things, but you went the route of resilience, of adapting and overcoming to the situation, without knowing what the outcome was.
Yeah, absolutely. Had no idea what could happen.
I'm fascinated by it, dude. I'm fascinated.
Yeah.
I think if you're listening in, you're probably like, if Cesar told that story, maybe I wouldn't believe it. Or if Fred told that story, I wouldn't believe it. But I'm telling you, we were witness.
We lived it. We lived it
to that moment, and I remember it. For me, when you talk about that resilience component, I think about when I had just left the military, and my wife and I were living in the projects. By the way, today is a hat day. Apparently, I'm wearing my hat. CJ's wearing his hat. We're feeling kind of good right now. It's the coffee. It's hitting.
It's hitting. It's a good coffee.
We're drinking some good coffee. We have some coconut cookies. Wish you could be here.
We enjoying it.
We really are, man. So check this out. I think it's our mood because we're getting ready to celebrate 1 year of doing this. That's exciting. But anyway,
it's the endorphins of it all, bro.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. I'm thinking about when I first got out of the military and my wife and I were living in the projects. We had just got married, dude, and I was embarrassed, man. I was embarrassed because I had said to myself, man, I'll never be back to this place. You know, you do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's your hometown, your neighborhood, whatever. I had looked at the project and I said, I'll never be back. And I said it with hate, man. And next thing you know, next thing you know, I'm in the projects, and it was humbling. The floors were cold. There was no furniture downstairs, and except for 2 chairs. They were lawn chairs, those white lawn chairs. And I brought my wife into me. We had a son at the time. My son, he's 28. He's your age. At the time, he was a few months old, dude. So he tells you how long ago the story was. The setting of this story, and I brought my wife in. We're sitting on these lawn chairs on this tile floor, and I said, "I'm gonna go back to school. I'm gonna go back to school, and it's gonna be hard, and I don't know what I'm getting into." I had earned my associate's degree in the military, but this was different, dude. I'd never gone and studied my undergraduate, and anyways, there was a lot of fear associated with it. And I told my wife this, and I said, and I wasn't prepared for any response. I wasn't even looking for it, dude. I was just like, I'm all in, man.
Yeah.
You with me?
Has to go.
And 100%, man. My wife was like, let's do this. I don't know what we're getting into. My wife's English was so limited at that time. My son didn't speak yet. He was only a few months old, and we did it, man. And that for me, and that's my example of that one choice where I said, I don't want to live like this anymore, Cesar. I don't want my son and future children to know that pain of living in poverty. Now, don't get me wrong. It's a beautiful thing. There are beautiful lessons learned
100%.
in poverty, brother. I wouldn't be me had I not lived like that. But there's a pride point in being a man that you want to do better.
And not recreating the patterns that we've lived. I think that's the biggest part. Not pulling those having those patterns with our kids. Well, y'all's kids. I don't have kids yet. But I think it takes
insert joke that you know of. No, no, you better not.
I don't.
But we talk. I mean,
I hate you so much.
We talk about good hate me. We do talk about like future opportunities to one day be married.
Oh,
and
for
have
sure.
Kids and like Cesar talks about
That's
that all
cool.
the time. Like it's a big part of what your future goals are. It's not just academic goals. It's not just financial goals. It is marriage and children.
I think that's at my short 28 years old of age. I think that's the one thing that has eluded me. as of yet. I always saw myself with at least 2 or 3 kids by like 24, 35. Growing up, that was always my mentality.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened yet, and it's for a reason. I didn't understand it, but now I'm more at peace.
Yeah, man.
With that. So, yeah, hopefully one day it'll happen. But I think it takes.
I think when you're a dad, you're gonna be a great dad, dude.
I hope so.
Now you're gonna be a great dad. You're gonna be a great husband. My homeboy is single, so is it datecesar.com?
WWE. WWE?
Yeah, WWE. WrestleCesar.com. Whoever wins gets to marry her or something like that. I don't know. No, man, I think it's a beautiful thing. I think that oftentimes young men talk about that side, so the financial stability, and I want a house, I want this kind of car, this kind of this. But oftentimes I don't hear young men talk about this is the kind of wife and life I want. And I do respect that about you, because you talk about where your standards are.
Yeah.
Right? And the expectations.
For sure.
You're looking for a woman that's going to take you to that next level. You know what I mean? And I say that humbly, because I really do think that in my 30 years of marriage, my wife has both challenged me and put me in a position. Pobrecita. No, listen. If you know me, then you know Pobrecita, whoever is on the other side of that marriage. And Amita is really one of the nicest persons you'll ever meet. Pobrecita. 30 years. Yeah. That's a life sentence right there, man.
You gotta give her a break or something. She's earned it. At least a couple of weeks. I don't know, but she's
That's
earned
what summers are for.
She's earned it for sure. But yeah, and keep watching more. We'll actually going to be jumping on this topic in a couple episodes. So that's a little sneak peek of what's to come. But I think going back to what we're talking about, I think it takes guts, man. I think it takes that, having that resilience, having that strength to make these decisions, to shift and uproot our life and make things happen. Because I believe that the choices that scare us the most are the most impactful in our lives, and the ones that ultimately change our life trajectory the most. So if we're not able to pull the trigger, per se, on some of these decisions, we're going to get stuck. We're going to continue to go down a path that might not be the right path for us. We got to have that strength to be able to pull the trigger, be able to it takes guts to be able to do that, and understand that it might not be easy. It might not be the right choice at that point. It could be the wrong choice. But we have to make those choices to learn and to shift the rest of our lives.
And you know, I mean, sure, there's apprehension. Sure, there's difficulty. But make a decision, man.
Yeah.
Do something.
Either to do it or not to do it.
Come on, man. Just decide already. And that's the situation, is that, you know, for many people, that indecisiveness is what's holding them back. It's the apprehension of making a yes or no decision and moving forward.
Yeah.
And even if you're stagnant in your yeses and nos as a result of your decisions, you're still advancing, Cesar, because you're learning from those experiences, right? If you said no and you learned a lesson, it wasn't defeat. It was like, all right, chalk it up. I took some notes there, right? If you, you know, I'm on this group chat with some guys, and they're always talking about like investments, and they go back and forth like, you got to do this to invest, and this kind of money, and the truth is, some are going to do it and some are not.
Yeah.
You can't live with regret, though. You can live with the lessons learned.
Yep.
Right, and that's the beauty of it. You know, on that same note, Cesar, you know, people talk about things, they post about things, and so you see the positive, and that, for the most part, that's what social media. I'm okay with that. I'm not one of those persons who says, "Oh, Cesar's always posting all the good stuff. What about his bad stuff?" Well, I don't want to know his bad stuff. Actually, I don't want. You know, I'm okay with your struggle, and I'm okay with that you struggle privately.
Yeah.
But the things that we don't post about, can you kind of talk about that a little bit? Can you talk about those decisions that we make, what that looks like, and the things that we don't get to post about? Meaning, not that we don't post about it because it's none of anyone's business.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? If you're struggling with mental health right now, you don't want to necessarily tell everyone you're struggling. You want to get through it. And if someone ever needs advice, be like, hey, between you and I struggled along this thing with my finances or with addiction or mental health. This is how I got through it. But it doesn't have to be public. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is people always say trust your gut. Trust what your gut is telling you, where you might want to do to make a decision. What people don't say is that your gut might betray you at one point. It might leave you lonely. It might leave you broken and confused about the decisions that you've made at that moment. And it can be about everything. It can be a relationship, about a job. For me, I think I don't regret it, but one of the decisions that my gut told me to make, and at the end of the day did not turn out to be the best one.
Well, we'll call them panza points. Points that your panza... I'm sorry.
We're trying to be serious here.
Okay.
Rewind. This is why it's a life sentence for Amita. 30 years of this?
Well, if your gut tells you something, it's a panza point. Is it not? I'm sorry. Okay.
I'm taking this 10 years. I don't think I can do it. This might be our last episode.
We were talking off the air, and Cesar said, we've been working together for 10 years. He said, I think this is it. I think it ends at the 10-year mark.
I think that's enough.
That's enough. That last joke did it. No, but the gut instinct that you're talking about, right? That intuition.
Exactly. The intuition. I think it goes a long way because, you make a decision because that's what your gut is telling you. You think at that moment is the right one, but it turns out it's not. So what do? You start to doubt yourself. You begin to doubt that gut feeling that you have. But at the end of the day, the decision that you made, like you talked about earlier, is a lesson learned.
That's right, man.
It's not in vain that we took those decisions. It's not in vain that we had to go through that. It's a lesson learned. Okay, move on. Now, what's the next decision?
And on that same point, Cesar, it's worth noting that the decision you made at 18 is not what you're making today at 28.
No, 100%.
And I would challenge you, it's not what you will make at 38. So if you once made a decision about a relationship or a job, I'm in my early 50s, and so my perspective is someone in my early 50s, right? Someone in the early 50s, and so if I made a decision in my 20s about a relationship, clearly, or about a relationship, it was in my 20s because it was before I was married.
Yeah,
that's not that cannot be true anymore. The world has changed.
Yeah,
right. About a job, I've been, you and I have been in higher ed for the majority of our adult lives. You go into a new field, and there's a learning curve. There is that component where, well, the last time I did this, but the last time was not the same situation, right? The variables have changed, if you will. So you can. My point on that one is you can overbuy and misinterpret that it's intuition telling you, but really it could just be the difference in variables.
Yeah. In
your age, in your maturity.
And all of that. Yeah, and I think those wrong choices are the ones that teach you more than a textbook ever could.
What? You mean life? Can
Exactly.
be way more powerful than the bit. Boy, who will tell that?
And I think we've all been at those crossroads. We've been there where we don't know how to do, we don't know how to navigate, we don't know what to do next. So it's an important topic to just have in mind and be able to talk about. Yeah, that was deep.
Yeah, man. No, if you do me a favor, man, if you're engaging with us today, post in the comments a life lesson you've learned.
Or send it to our
email
and social media where we usually get up our stuff. Yeah.
Tell us the life lesson that you learned. And listen, not only do we love reading books and learning those lessons, right? We're currently writing some books. So this is not a dig on literature, on books, on those lessons. Those are beautiful, man.
Yeah.
They are timely. Like late at night when I'm reading, I learn a lesson, but the life lessons are happening usually during the day or at work or in relationships as you engage. If you're not engaging, you're not learning life lessons.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to make yourself uncomfortable.
You got to, on that other side of discomfort.
That's where the opportunity happens.
Absolutely. So yeah, please share with us. Let us know your stories, your life crossroads, where they have taken you, what
Share
path you guys decided to take, and what version of you came out of that decision. I think that's also very important because a decision like that can shape you and change you.
So all right. So moving along that same topic. What if you don't know what to do? What if past tuition, past maturity, past all the life decisions? What if you don't know what to do? What does that look like for our listeners? I'm tempted to say for young men, but let's be honest, Cesar. Our listeners are young men and women.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, our listeners
Very
have
diverse.
grown differently. Yeah,
100%. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to spend a minute or two on our 1-year anniversary talking about the metrics and the data of year one of what it means to be in this podcast.
It's been a crazy ride.
It's been. I mean, I love it, man. The lessons we've learned. But speaking of lessons learned, what if you don't know what to do? How do you handle that? How do you navigate past that difficulty?
I think the first question that you'd ask yourself whenever it comes to making a decision is, will this bring me peace, comfort, or is it just a temporary decision that I'm making to be okay at that moment in time?
Yeah.
We can't, we all love immediate gratification.
Mm-hmm.
We all love it. If we make a decision and we feel good about it, whatever, but we got to think about it long term. We got to think about how that's going to affect our lives, how that's going to affect how we live, how that's going to affect the people
The
that we are
delayed
surrounded.
gratification.
Exactly.
That's right.
We can't just be looking or seeking for that temporary comfort. We got to be able to understand if we're going to be peaceful with our decision after the fact.
Well, we talk so much about on this podcast about life, death, excuse me, and everything in between. And one of the big points where we've had some success in the last month is talking about that everything between the relationship side, right?
That was a hit,
dude. And so when we talk to people and we're in public and engaging, they said, like I asked them, like, what did you like about that? Because people liked it. Mm-hmm. Tell me more about that. We liked the vulnerability side. We liked that you guys talked, that you made it personal, that you humanized the experience. And that you talked about a few words that really touched our listeners. Like, okay, tell me. Forgiveness was one. A big part of it, dude. The vulnerability piece, dude. And one that some people said was healing, man.
Yeah.
What that does to the healing self and what that means for you post-healing. Because, when you hear this often, and I've heard, in the last couple of weeks, I've heard people say this, right? You've heard it. When I say it, you're going to be like, yeah, I hear it all the time. Hurt people, right? And so you're like, ha, 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 you can hear it all the time. But as simple as that reference is,
think about it.
It's true, dude. If I'm hurting, and I don't know how to navigate that conversation, and I'm not someone who's going to take responsibility for my actions, I'm just going to put that poop on you.
Yeah.
I'm just throw it on you, be like, oh, well, you know what? You're a blah 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 blah. Like, and then if you're not wise to it, Cesar, you're going to absorb that pain.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're not going to be able to heal. But the truth of the matter is, it was my poison that I put on you. So now I'm unhealed, and I want you to hurt with me, and that's what it's about. So can we talk a little bit about the healing process as far as like someone who is healing and then engaging in the same time? Can you love someone if you're not healed? You really can't, right? Mm-mm. It's like that. It's like that. The reference of you on an airplane, put the oxygen on you, first. Right? The oxygen mask, and then put it on somebody else because you got a couple of seconds, you're gonna pass out, you're gonna die. Well, it's the same thing with love, engaging, respect. Dude, yeah. That comes up all the time. The word respect. Can you talk a little bit about the healed Cesar and the healing Cesar, man, and what that looks like? I know that's deep. That's a whole
couple episodes. Man. But no, I think the biggest part is that it's a saying. I don't know. I might butcher the saying, but they say that you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah, dude.
So if I'm hurting, if I'm not okay with the decisions that I'm making, where I'm at that point in life, then there's no point for me to engage in a relationship. Because at the end of the day, yeah, it might be great. We're talking about that temporary comfort. It might be great at that time to have somebody with you, or whatever, to engage in that relationship. But at the end of the day, we're not happy with ourselves. We're not happy with our lives. We're going to put that on that other person, and they don't even deserve it. They did not, that's not what they asked for. That's not what they joined this relationship for. It's the complete opposite. They joined a relationship to heal, to have that sense of security, that sense of comfort. And honestly, it takes a lot from a person to be able to understand that part. It took me maybe in Nebraska to understand that part.
It took you a whole state.
A couple of states.
A couple states away
To understand that part.
But that's when you talk about like the growth and the healing and the recovery.
Yeah.
Had you not made that decision, had you not gone to another place, would you be the same at your age, healed, wise, and aware person, prepared for a relationship?
No, absolutely not.
No, you'd be causing pain, man.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you don't let yourself heal, you can't engage in another relationship. Well, a lot of people.
I mean, unfortunately, yes.
A lot of people do it, but I think also there's a big component and a big part of people. I've also been hearing this a lot. A lot of people say, "Well, if you're not healed yet, don't join a different relationship." But sometimes to heal, you need to be out there talking to people, engaging with them, because that's what's going to pour into your cup
100
again. So you just got to understand where that difference and that line is, and figure out what's going to be the best way for you to heal.
You know what you said the other day, we were talking, and you said, we were talking about the decisions as we prep for this, and I wrote it down, dude. I actually have my little notes here, and you said oftentimes you ask yourself, is this decision that he's making, is it based on fear? Does it come from fear or from faith?
Yeah.
I like that you said that, dude. Can you expand on that a little bit? Like, fear or faith? We do that in our lives.
Yeah, 100%. Anything
we respond based on fear.
It's exactly right. We respond off of fear rather than believing that the decision that we're going to make, whether it might seem wrong, whether it might not be the popular decision to make, we have to have the faith that at the end of the day, that decision is going to be the best decision for us, and not make the decision out of fear, to be able to get, again, that immediate gratification, that temporary comfort, because that's whenever things start to be more detrimental to you, and they, instead of helping you, they deter you a lot more. And it's important to understand that it just doesn't have to be about religion or anything like that. It
can be.
It can be. No,
it doesn't
absolutely.
Have to,
it doesn't have to be. It's more of having the faith or the understanding, the consciousness that the decision that you're going to make, it might affect you right now, but at the end of the day, it's going to be the best for you. Quick example for me: whenever I left UNT at 23 years old, 24 years old, to uproot my whole life to move to Nebraska for a new opportunity, that was the unpopular decision. Everybody told me, "Are you ready for this? You really want to be in a different state without your family?" My nephew was just born a couple months before that. Do you really want to do this? Like, is this something that you can live with in Nebraska? Because Nebraska's not going to Oklahoma, going to Austin, a couple hour drive. It takes you a couple of days to come back and go and whatnot. And if I would have made the decision out of fear, I would have stayed.
Yeah.
I would have 100 stayed. But I knew, and I had faith in myself and where I was wanting to go, that no matter what this opportunity turned out to be, it was going to be a chance for me to grow.
That fear can dismantle opportunities.
Yeah.
And those opportunities will limit your success and growth.
Woo. Yeah.
And I've seen people do it, dude. And to your credit, I mean, you go all out. And sometimes it looks foolish. Some people be like, dude, what are you doing? Nah, man, just trust me on this. Trust me in the process. Right? And if you reach out to your mentors and your family and they're supportive, what more could you ask for in life?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I go back to my first example of sitting down with my wife and telling her, like, I'm going to go back to school. I can't live in this place. This was too hard. It was too challenging. I can't. Let me clarify. I could have lived there the rest of my life.
Oh, 100%.
The threats to my family, to my son's livelihood, I couldn't do it, man.
Mm-mm.
Couldn't do it, dude. And so I had to check my manhood and be like, nah, man, I'm doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And if that comment offends you, you know, hey, it offends you.
It's okay.
But for me, being a man, my definition meant that I had to come through. And the end result, Cesar, for me was I had 3 jobs and I went to school full time. I took 15 hours and I went all the way up to 23, 24 hours. And so years later, Cesar's like, hey, I'm gonna take 20-some hours. And everyone else was like, excuse me, they said, you can't do it. And I'm sitting in the back of my head,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you can. You can do it, and it may be exactly what you need.
And the people that said you can't do it, that's what made me do it the most.
100%.
Even more.
In our lives, people talk about this all the time, right? In our lives, people say like, oh, this person didn't believe me. I honestly think we make that shit up, bro. I think that sometimes, I'm not saying that people don't say that stuff too. I'm saying that we make it bigger than what it is so it can motivate us. Like we need
that
haters.
fuel. Heck yeah.
Bro, we need thunder and lightning for the rain to come, for the grass to grow, and for the flowers to bloom. We need all that, dude.
Yeah.
And 100%. And so, like, in my head, I'm like, oh, this blah, 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 doesn't think I can do it? Now, I've had, as you have had, people say, you'll never be nothing, man. And you know, early on, I couldn't believe they told me that. Later on in life, I said like this. Listen, I came a little closer to the microphone. I said, say it again. Say that shit again. I want to hear it. I want to hear it, man. I want to hear you say it to me again.
Right.
Cesar. Tell me I'll never be nothing. Whew. I want to hear it again. That's my fuel. That's my motivation. May you use the same fuel. Don't let it break you down.
No.
My children right now, they're young, they're in middle school, and there's challenges happening to them. And I tell them, use that as fuel.
Mm-hmm.
It's never going to change. You cannot. I'm so sorry. I've said it a million times before. You can't stop bullying.
No.
If it were true, then you wouldn't have bullies at work. You wouldn't have bullies who are adults. So you can't stop bullying. But you could learn how to respond to a bully. You can learn how to define what is someone being a bully. Hey, they're just trying to motivate you. Change your perspective. They're trying to motivate you. They're challenging you.
Mm-hmm.
I've had many mentors in my life tell me, well, what you going to do about it, though?
Yeah.
Well, you could quit or you could keep going. And that's what that's why we get along, bro. This is why we've been doing this whole podcast. The death of our parents challenged us in a way. And I'm not saying it was easy.
No.
I'm not even going to play. I would be a liar if I told you those processes were easy.
Those couple of years were rough for both of us.
They're rough, man.
They still are.
They still are. There's days. There's days.
There's good days. There's bad days.
100%. You know, that's just a reality, man. You know, we're coming up on the season where we celebrate our moms, where we celebrate our dads, and those are tough for parents who've lost their mom and dads. And then I pause for a moment. I think about the people who've lost their children. Couldn't imagine. As we talk about that, I hear oftentimes two things. Will this even matter in 4 or 5 years? So you over here stressing about this and that. Will it even matter now? There's some things. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Hey man, am I struggling with some mental health issues because of the transition from this job, transition from this relationship, transition from the difficulty of having this conversation about the death of a loved one? Yeah, those things matter. Bleached, my jacket fell in, and some bleach on it. Bro, go buy you another jacket. You know, and so I think about that. And the other thing I think about Cesar, and I like to move on, make a little point, move on, because we could do this podcast
We can go in
5 hours.
In a couple hours, yeah.
And I think about right now the poem you presented at our conference at our mini summit, and it was a letter to your younger self, right? And it was dedicated to your mom, and it was just so beautiful, poignant. Can you talk a little bit about a message to the younger self, and in this context, right? If you could go back and talk to the 19-year-old you, the 18-year-old you, we talked 10 years ago, 18-year-old you, tell them, they say, you're not a failure, bro. Homie, this is what it's about. These struggles are all part of your life. It's already been written, prepared, and assigned to you. Like when David Goggins talks about these opportunities, he says he envisioned himself at the pearly gates and going back and saying, that's who I was going to be? That was going to be the extent of my success and my failures? So how about that letter to yourself, man? What does that look like for you today after having written that poem?
I don't know. I think the message that I would give my younger self would be that everything is going to be okay. No matter the difficulties, no matter how much of a failure you might feel like because you're not accomplishing everything the same way that your peers or we also put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We try to be perfect. We want to be perfect.
Men and women. Married, unmarried, all that.
14 years old, 30 years old, whatever. We always want to be perfect. And when we're not perfect, we feel like we're failures at whatever aspect of life we're talking about.
Can you be perfect?
Heck no.
Come on, man.
There's
you can't
no
be perfect.
There's
Young
no
people,
way.
if you're listening, any age, you can't be perfect.
And
it's okay to work. Work hard.
Yeah, 100%.
But the goal to be perfect, it's not achievable.
So I think that'd be the message. Not everything's gonna be perfect, but you don't have to feel weak. You don't have to feel defeated. You don't have to feel like a failure. At the end of the day, everything that we've been through, everything that we've taken, everything that we've accomplished will be worth it in the long end. It'll be worth it when you're older. And I think that the future is bright. The future is... I didn't see it at first, that the future was bright. I didn't see it when I was 18. But the future is bright. And the things that we're going to get to accomplish, the things that we're going to be able to do, the impact that we're going to continue to make, I could have never seen it. I could have never envisioned myself being in the spot where I'm at. So
it's crazy. People say that often, right? You're probably listening today. You're like, I could have never seen. We interviewed Baby Ray a couple weeks back, and he said I could never have envisioned being a public speaker. And here I am being a public speaker, doing a nationwide tour. What did you not envision yourself doing? If you listen, put it in the comment, man. We love the engagement.
Heck yeah.
What did you envision not being? Here you are doing it.
Mm-hmm. What would you tell your younger self? 40, 50, 60 years ago.
It's still out there. Okay, first of all, I'd have to use a memory card to try to remember that far back. I
don't even think I'm... Okay, never mind.
Sir.
Never mind.
Memory cards did not exist.
I was about to say, probably not.
Okay, using your same concept, right? When your 18-year-old self, about me...
Or your younger self. I mean,
just my younger self.
That's it.
I let him know, like, hey, young Fred, you're not supposed to know it all. You're not supposed to even be able to figure it all. And there will be challenges, there'll be difficulties. Don't let it bring you down. And then side note, man, I think I would tell myself, Cesar, to fucking love more, man. I'm sorry for my language.
That's big.
I'd like to learn to love more, man, to soften up a little bit. I think I was a little too tough sometimes, and I just got out of military and struggling with my own stuff, dude, and the age and trying to figure out life, and I was a hard ass, dude, and I was struggling with my own shit, dude, and I didn't know how to love, man. And I think looking back, try to love more.
I think we all can do a a lot better in that aspect. In that regard, specifically about love, we can always love a little bit harder. We can always love a little bit more. We can always show that affection, that love, a little bit extra at a time. It's not in our DNA, specifically talking about minority men. We weren't wired like that. We have to be intentional about it. We have to understand that it's something that is needed, something that's important, because at the end of the day, if we don't do it, going back to our last 30, if it ever came to that, that's going to be one of the things that we regret. That's going to be one of the things that's going to hold us back. Because you're going to be like, oh man, I wish I could have done this. I wish I could have done that. And I speak it from experience. Whenever my dad passed away, there was a lot of things I'm like, I wish I could have told him a couple more times that I loved him. I wish I could have spent a birthday with him instead of being in school. I wish I could have done this or that. And that doesn't serve you any purpose afterwards.
You're right.
It's just going to destroy you.
You're right.
So why not be intentional now when we're able to avoid that?
You know, a couple weeks back, we told you to pause our podcast and reach out to someone. And we've got a couple minutes left, man. So I'll tell you this. When you're done with this podcast, man, send a text to 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
Send a text. It's an order. If you're a veteran, it's an order. If you're a homie, you got to. If you're a man listening in, man up.
Yeah.
If you're a woman listening in,
woman up.
woman up. I'm not sure what that means, but hey, you
but
got
do
it.
it.
Listen, we're trying to tell you, man, if you're someone that we've been able to connect with today, do us a favor for you. Reach out to someone that you ain't reached out to in a little bit. Tell them what they mean to you. Thank them. Take that moment to make a quick memory.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're no longer here, just write it down. You know, just in your notepad, man. I hope you have your notepad. I hope you have a little
or your notes
journal
app.
or your note tab. Or,
your notes app, yeah.
You know, like, take that opportunity to let someone know that you're thinking about them. And it is powerful. And it releases from you.
It does.
That, bro. It's good therapy, Cesar. It really is, man. And as hard as you might think you are, or as important as you think you are, or maybe you think you ain't got it in you. You do, man. You got to release it, brother. You hear that when we talk, man, sometimes it shakes us up. When we think about certain things, it shakes us up and we like looking for that tissue. Hey, if the tears come hard enough, I'll grab that coconut cookie. I'll wipe myself with it. What, bro? I'll do a coconut cookie to wipe the tears from my eyes, man.
Still out.
Yeah, still out those, right. This is your reminder. Cesar, you talked about it. We're developing some stuff right now, and one of the topics you talked about is something that was in your notes, man. You said something about resilience. You said it doesn't whisper.
It roars, brother.
Shit. Resilience doesn't whisper. It roars. Be resilient, man.
Even in the moments when you don't think you have it in you. I think even in the moments where you're still trying to figure things out, that resiliency will come out. You are going to be okay. Things will be okay, regardless of the decisions that you end up making.
All right, homies. Familia. Now it's your turn.
Yeah?
It's your turn, homies. What's that one decision to change your life? Please think about it. If you're an engaging type, put it in the comments. If you're a private type, shoot us an email or whatever.
Yeah.
If you're an impactful type, send that text to somebody. As Cesar said, right? Whether it's in the DMs or at the PM or the AM, brother. I see it? Oh, no, I see. I'm learning about this. Get me I'm 50.
7.
I'm all... Listen, man. Send us a message, a note on on Instagram. It used to be, didn't one of them used to be something else? Instagram used to
Twitter.
be.
No, Twitter used to, or X used to be Twitter.
And what did Instagram used to be? MySpace. What did Facebook used to be? A journal. What did YouTube used to be?
Thank you. You'll go on a tangent, but thank you guys.
This is a podcast about life, death, and
Everything
everything
in
in between.
between.
But it ain't about comedy.
Not at all. We might look funny, but we ain't funny.
But on the real, man, if you're standing at the crossroads, okay,
Yeah.
if you're standing at the crossroads and the opportunity is there, make that decision. Make that decision.
You won't regret it.
Process it if you need to, but don't take too long.
Mm-hmm.
Just make the decision, right? The famous Nike commercial.
Just do it.
Just do it. Just knock it out. Brothers and sisters, thank you for listening today. Thank you for your attention, for your time, for liking, for sharing, for commenting. We are at just over 4,000 subscribers. The video that we have been most successful with is 3,000 views on a video. I'd like for this video to pass up 3,000. Let's make it happen.
Let's get it.
Let's make
Let's
it happen.
get it there, guys.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you, Cesar.
Stay
Thank you.
tuned for some more surprises in the next couple of weeks,
We
guys.
got it coming up. And for a celebration of 1 year, let's drink on the air.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Have a great
Thank you.
one.
We'll see you next time.
episode.